Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Bell, the Executive Director of the DCA. Thank you so much for coming. And welcome to the kickoff of our 6th Darien Neighbors Global Players Speaker Series. By participating tonight, whether in person or via live stream, you are helping to support the DCA's fundraising efforts in our wonderful nonprofit mission, which is 100 years old this year. In celebration of this anniversary, we've compiled a list of 100 things to love about the DCA. We've conveniently left a few on your tables, and I wanted to give you just a quick sampling. We award at least $50,000 annually in need-based college scholarships for Darien High School graduates. Our volunteer staff DCA Thrift Shop on the Post Road has served the community for 90 years and counting. We have a serene DCA bird sanctuary and nature trail right here on our Middlesex Road property, and it's a place for walking, watching, and reflecting. Our historic home and mansion has been awarded Best of distinction from Moffley Media as a wedding venue. And we host programs and events for all from ages 3 to 103. So we encourage you just to take a look through our flyer. We had a lot of fun putting it together, and we hope that you'll find your reasons to love the DCA. I'd like to do a few thank yous. We have a technical team in the back. I'd like to thank Jeff DeMayo, Audiovisual Services, and our live stream partner, DAF Media. We have the Ferguson team here tonight, Bruce and Andrew Ferguson. DAF Media is a joint venture between the Darien Foundation and the Darien Athletic Foundation, and we're pleased to have them as our partner this evening. And I'd like to say a special thank you to the generous local businesses and organizations who are sponsoring our series. Our platinum sponsor is John M. Glover Insurance Agency. Our silver sponsors are A Little Something White Bridal Couture, Connecticut Community Bank, and Janine Tenkin with Houlihan Lawrence. And then our bronze sponsors are David Harvey Jewelers, Hollow Tree Self-Storage, Nancy Dock with Brown Harris Stevens, and Holly and David Hawes with Compass Connecticut, PG Properties, and the V20 Group, LLC. And thank you very much to all of our sponsors. We have a short video we'd like to share from our platinum sponsor, John M. Glover Insurance Agency.
Before there was professional football, fast food restaurants, and megastores, there was a John M. Glover agent at the doorstep of Connecticut's businesses and homes, shaking their clients' hands with a comforting smile. Today, on our 100th anniversary, John M. Glover has grown to have served thousands of clients the old-fashioned American way. Join us in the movement to keep business personal. Join us in the celebration of tradition and trust. At John M. Glover, we've got you covered.
I recognize a few people in that video. Thank you to John M. Glover and the Forlivio, Darien's own Forlivio family for their tremendous support. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about tonight's speaker, Sarah Blank. Sarah's 4 decades of work in interior architecture with an emphasis on kitchen and bathroom design is built on the classical style. She creates beautiful and functional spaces that respect the architecture of a home, and her expertise is sought after by leading architects and designers who engage her services for some of the country's most beautiful homes. She has worked on projects in locations as varied as Connecticut, New York, Palm Beach, Houston, and Los Angeles. Her work has been featured in numerous publications, including Architectural Digest and House Beautiful, to L. She will discuss her to L. She will share pro tips from her new book, will share classic kitchens for modern living. Sarah lives and works in Greenwich and Washington, Connecticut, where her passion for classical architecture, not to be outdone by for animals and pet rescue. Please welcome Sarah Blank.
Thank you, everybody. It's really an honor to be here. I thank you for inviting me. And as I'm going to focus on pro tips, I think there's a lot to cover in a short period of time. So let's get started. Let me get acclimated here. These plans are just to give you an idea of flow and to give you a little bit of proximity as I review certain items. When you start, one of the things that's so important when you start to design your kitchen is you cannot design a kitchen in a vacuum. You have to design it with all of the parts that make up the whole: the kitchen, the mudroom, the pantry, the Costco closet. There's a whole part that you have to look at all together. When an architect sometimes will send me a plan and he just sends me the kitchen, I'm like, I don't know how to do this without knowing where all the other rooms are, where the dining room is, how it's going to flow. And I try to start by designing really from the ceiling and making sure that you have a really good access line. What's your focal point? Is your focal point the hood? Then if you have overhead lighting, you want it centered on there. There's certain criterias to make the space once it's completed so that it flows nicely and there's harmony. So one of the things I want to talk about is the access line. Sometimes too, we try to, I'm going to get a little bit, I don't want to get too complicated, but trying to find, you think outside the box, where can you get more space in a kitchen and recess some of the appliances? So in this particular case, I took from actually a powder room and some of the hallway to recess these back so they weren't sticking so far out into the room. This is the kitchen. And as you can see, the hood, and even though we're on an angle, this is all very much in line with one another. Some of the other key factors, well, I'll keep going because there's so many images that just really got to keep going. One of the things that I want to talk about, again, I'm going to focus on pro tips. So many people will come to me and say, I want a wood countertop. What is it like to do a wood countertop? Wood countertops are beautiful, but you want to think about how you work. You want to think about how much punishment you're going to give that countertop. And you want to put it in a place that is going to be cared for. There are certain manufacturers out there that really do a beautiful job with countertops, and you want to make sure that it has the proper finish on it. So researching and understanding who's making it, one of the most wonderful is Groth House. They make beautiful countertops. They know what they're doing. And they have a sealer on them that's quite wonderful. And if you scratch it, they have finishes that can be very forgiving. So be careful where you put it, and then be careful how you maintain it. Sinks. Sometimes when you want a double sink, you can separate them. This happens to be a kosher kitchen, so we have a meat and a dairy, and one of the biggest challenges in a kosher kitchen is you have double of everything. But in this particular case, we put to try and make it really work nicely, we have the trash in the center, and then we have two dishwashers, one on either side. And so many times people want two dishwashers, and then it's, well, where does the trash land up? So sometimes this is a nice way to work out that so it's extremely functional. Here is the refrigerators. This happens to be all all refrigerator, and freezer. Think about how much freezer you really use. So many people will put in a kitchen a huge freezer when it's really storage. So you're taking a prime real estate in an area that you need for something else. So maybe you put another freezer downstairs because it's storage. So you store it down there and you go and get it. And you have a small one up here for the kids, for the ice cream, for some of the smaller items. And then you have so much more space. Again, this is a family of 4 children, so these refrigerators are active. Sometimes when designing, I love to have windows on either side of a hood. When you get into designing and you're doing a wood hood, you have a whole other set of code. Code will always be something, if you're working on your own kitchen, you have to think about code. National code, local code, and the clearances from combustible material. When you're in a case like this, you don't have to worry about an adjacent cabinet. And as we journey through this, I have other examples that I can show you. Butler's pantries. I love butler's pantries. I never want to get rid of them. I only want to add them. You know, when I go in and I have this huge kitchen that somebody's going to wear roller skates, you know, I like to put a butler's pantry in there. It's great storage. It's a buffer between the dining room and the kitchen, and I think that you can really have a lot of fun in a pantry. In this particular case, I took this image, although it's a difficult image to understand. Don't be afraid to mix woods. Don't be afraid to mix finishes. It doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. In this particular case, the countertops are tiger maple and with walnut cabinets, whereas in the kitchen we had the walnut island and the tiger maple island, and we had the walnut countertops. So don't be afraid to mix materials. And even with the metal shelves, I think it's just a wonderful accent piece. But you have to know who you are. We don't change. Are you messy? Are you clean? Are you organized? And one of the most important things that I think I've really honed in on is 2 things in my career. One, I'm a really good space planner because you learn from all these little spaces how to space plan, and you also really get to understand how you have to organize. Because when you're designing your kitchen, you want to walk yourself through it and think about it. How am I going to work in here? How am I going to go from here to there? It's very important to walk yourself through it through quiet time. Just some accent details. Okay, moving on to chapter 2 here. This was a challenge. This was a very narrow kitchen. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous home in Irvington, New York. I have pictures of it so you can get an idea. Very symmetrical. Somebody came in the 80s and took the staircase and put in an aluminum baluster and banister. I mean, really turn this into, it had to go away. So what we did was, there was a refrigerator over here, there was a short window over here, and architecturally, they changed it. This house is so symmetrical on the outside, so we brought it back to what it was. And this is the kitchen window over here. It's a little hard to see, but it was this little short window because it was above the sink. So we matched this side. So again, we brought the house back to what it was with harmony. And then we put in this doorway, which also matches the other side, which is a doorway out to the front terrace. This house is solid concrete. The man that built it was afraid that his house would burn down. Well, needless to say, it's never going to burn down. This is just to give you an idea. It's just a fabulous house and a fabulous client. It's a little hard to see. Maybe they can put these lights. Do these lights go off here, or do they not? I'm going to keep going. One of the most important rooms to a house is a mudroom. And when you come in the back door here, this is a very shallow mudroom. So you want to really make it so it's fun, it's functional, and we decided to do just very shallow shelves here. You'll see later on that there's coats here. But we wanted to mix it up, give some closed area, some open area. You really have to be sensitive to coming in that door and making sure you have enough hallway. The other thing that's really fun in a narrow space is mirror. And so it doesn't get glitzy. You can do an antique mirror. There's different levels of antiquing on the mirror. You can do a little bit amount. We always say, okay, we want antiquing that's 6 months. So, you know, just a little bit of antiquing, not really, really busy. So again, the mirror adds a lot of depth to a very narrow space. The kitchen was, you really need to understand your town. I can't emphasize that enough when you do a kitchen renovation. I had to be 36 inches from the edge of that nosing to this countertop. So what I did was I put on a countertop that gave me that 36. I took the old countertop in the kitchen. I had the guys sand it down. It was a wood counter. I said, just put it on. When we get the C of O, we'll change it. And that's why there's just a little bit of an overhang here, because we couldn't get our C of O if we had kept it, if I had done this. So we did do a temporary one, and then they all gave us our C of O, and we immediately got to work at changing it. So that's very important. I love when you're doing an old home or a historic home, you don't have to pop, you don't need recessed lights. You can do surface-mounted lights. Surface-mounted lights give off a lot of light. So never be afraid to respect, you know, and not do the recessed lighting and do some wonderful decorative fixtures, which I think adds so much warmth to a kitchen. This is a situation, and I'm going to jump to the next slide to really show you that I am a symmetrical person, and the 36-inch wide Sub-Zero is over on this side. So I really wanted these doors to match. So a way to do it and have the wonderful Miele high-speed oven is these are just spice and olive oil, and it's a rumor that these units are so well insulated that they don't give off heat that they're going to be a problem for olive oils and vinegars, so don't be afraid of that. And then thinking about the height of your drawers, a lot of times I spend an enormous amount of time analyzing the style and rail of a face frame. And how do I get the maximum amount of height for a face frame so that you can get certain items that a client owns in each of these spaces? You notice I deleted the middle rail here so that I have maximum space. And I think that those are some of the little details that nobody realizes, and it can make the world of difference of something fitting in a drawer. Again, having some decorative elements and having the sconces, I think, are quite lovely. And again, from a code standpoint, I have my proper clearances for combustible. I actually have more than I need here, but it also gives some breathing room. This is a very, very tight kitchen where the house is a very large home, and you're trying to get the kitchen to work for the size of the house, so it can be somewhat difficult. I put this in for a reason. Sometimes when you're dealing with a lot of different materials, you have to think before you start. Where you're dealing with a 3/4 inch thick or 1 inch thick, this has 1/8 of an inch. How are you going to pad it out? How are you going to do? How are you going to get this all to be coplanar? There's an enormous amount of detail we go through before we even begin the installation, because you don't want to get there, and this is proud of this, and it's just to get those fine details, it takes some thinking. This is the staircase that was all aluminum balusters that we brought back, and we went around the house and got all the details from the other parts of the house and brought this back to what it really should be. And we had the doors and window. Here's the window we put in, and it's just the amount of light that comes in here is lovely. And then with the door over here, it's really amazing. Don't ever be afraid of a 7-inch deep cabinet. I have clients that say, I love my 7-inch deep cabinet because it's teas, coffees, glasses. You don't lose anything. So the shallower the cabinet, the better. So don't ever be afraid to put a 7-inch deep cabinet. I think this one may be 5. And she loves it. You open it up, she's got her teas. I mean, it's amazing. She's got her sugars, she's got her honeys. It's great. And then we added the antique mirror, which is just adding a nice reflection, and you can see the door. It's just lovely. Again, this is the other part of that long kitchen where we have the breakfast area. I want to thank Andrea Piacentino, who works with me. She does a lot of the, I want to say, the decorative side of it. And she did a lovely job here with the tables and chairs and artwork and working with our client. Again, this is a very narrow space, so I took advantage of the antique mirror. And this is all the dishes and glasses. There's really no area in the kitchen proper with all of the appliances, so this really is where all the dishes and glasses will go, and then you go right to the table. A little bit close up of the antique mirror, and hardware. Hardware's the jewelry. Don't be afraid to spend money on hardware. You really got to go for it because it really makes a kitchen. It's really lovely. This is a better picture of it, and what we did here is we needed a 30-inch tall freezer, and we had nowhere to put it. There was nowhere in the pantry. There was nowhere in the mudroom. So I decided that I needed to extend this kitchen into the breakfast room. I had to. This is the freezer. This is all the small appliances, and this is a pull-out pantry. And it really is beautiful because there's only a 36-inch door that separates this from the kitchen. So it's really a part of the kitchen, but it's in the breakfast room. And then it's such a nice, Andrea did a beautiful job here, and then having storage below, which actually right now is a lot of the kids' stuff, which is great because they can just pull out the drawers and throw it all in. And that's the star of the show. That's my dog. That's Ollie. This is the butler's pantry. I'm a stickler for preserving the character of a home, and this home is really white quarter-sawn oak, and I really wanted to bring this butler's pantry back to life. It was just a modern, listen, there's a place for modern. I do a lot of modern, but in this particular case, this house was screaming for a beautiful old butler's pantry. We have the sliding glass doors. You know, I'm inspired by Stamford White of McKim, Mead and White, and I spend a lot of time studying their details. And so the sliding doors, I think, are just such a beautiful look rather than the doors going out, especially if you have a ladder. You don't want to be opening a door like this, so you just get up there and you slide the door. And although Andrea and I put pots up there, she has all her Christmas stuff up there, so it looks really nice. But for the photograph, we didn't want the Christmas stuff. Again, this one I did a little bit more of a traditional where I had a little more leeway, where I had the middle rails. But again, it's very important to know what you're putting in those drawers to know specifically how deep they are. It's very, very important, and it's an important part about designing a kitchen. The other thing that's very important is the countertop and the backsplash. Many people, if it's tile, will bring the tile down to the counter. I have grown not to be a lover of that. I've grown to carry the countertop up, and the reason is it'll last forever. You won't get that grout, especially around the sink, that'll get all mungy, and so I truly, and in this particular case, if somebody spills something, the wood is up above, and I don't have to worry about it because I have a little backsplash there. And again, I do kitchens that last a lifetime. I don't want this changed in 10 years. I want it to last forever. One of the things that I think you want to think about is that no matter how detailed and how outside the box you think, there's certain things you don't want to do. And that is, there's so many sinks out, a copper sink, a brass sink. Those sinks are going to stain. If somebody puts a Coke in it, it'll eat it. overnight. You want to think about the wearability, but you want it to be beautiful at the same time. This particular sink has a stainless steel interior. I don't have to worry about it. She can do anything to it. And believe me, this client is not easy on her things. We're on the third project with her, and she's not easy. She's easy, but they're hard on materials. And this has a brass trim on it that's just so nice. And I did it for here, and I did it in the main kitchen. And I just don't have to worry about a child going in and throwing something in here, and then all of a sudden the sink is all stained. So think about the materials you're using and where you're using them. It's very important. This is a beautiful, beautiful Bowman home. Bowman is a wonderful architect in the early 20th century. He was inspired by Lutyens, and his work is magnificent. But this was a toughie. This is the existing butler's pantry. This was the existing kitchen. There's really nowhere to go. As much as I don't like to take walls down between kitchens and butler's pantry, this was a case that it had to be done. She has 4 children. Her mother, they're an Italian family. They're constantly cooking. And this was really a lot in a small space. This is the space. All of these homes, you want to lighten them up. I'll get into aesthetic a little bit. We did a Cerusse oak, which was much lighter. We did Calicut countertops, which is much lighter. The backsplash is metal, and it's a reflective quality. So again, it feels a little brighter. And the materials in here, this is a chrome faucet. I believe in chrome faucets. So many people have wells, and the nickel gets stained. So think about what you're using. Think about, and don't be afraid to mix. This is hammer nickel. This is chrome. We'll get to it in a minute. The hood is brass and stainless. I mean, there's every finish in here that you could possibly imagine. This is a very low ceiling. I want you to think about, a lot of times you'll go to somebody to design your kitchen and they automatically give you an 18-inch backsplash. The verticality and the overall height and the proportion is extremely, extremely important. It took a lot. This is this might be a 15.5-inch backsplash. Pretty much everything will fit under there except for the KitchenAid mixer. That's the bigger one. That one, you have a problem. But to get this door high enough to make that ceiling feel higher, you have to know the rules to break the rules. And to do a shorter backsplash is not a problem. And especially if you're my height, you're gonna reach the bottom shelf a little better. And then, so it just makes it a lot easier. And then you just have to make sure that the crown you use is proportionate to the space. In this particular space, there was a wall here, and we took out the wall. This is where the ceilings broke, so we had to kind of pull it all together. This is one of the most beautiful staircases I've ever seen in my life. This is existing. And I think, again, mixing the woods, don't be afraid to mix woods. We have the floor. I mean, these are all different woods, and they really look beautiful together. In the butler's pantry, we were fortunate in this space that the kitchen, it was higher. But I've learned that when I look at it again, I want it to feel grand. And this is a 14-inch backsplash, and I'm not afraid to do it because I've got plenty of height over here if she has a large coffee maker. You have to think it through. Where can I, if I'm going to do a 14-inch backsplash, where can I put things, and how's it going to function? And we certainly didn't need a sink here, so we took the sink out because the kitchen has 2 sinks right near here. So look what happens. You get this wonderful, tall, important feeling. So you want to really understand your heights and all of your proportions. And again, we kept a little bit of marble small here, but again, it's a nice, clean, same material, horizontal and vertical. So this client never has a problem wiping things down or if things get spilled. And especially with this backsplash, this has no grout. It butts together and God only knows, water would have gotten in and would have been dreadful. So it's very important to think function as well as your aesthetic. Your function's actually more important sometimes than your aesthetic. Here's where the hood is different materials, and I think that they begin to go beautifully together. So we have here now an area where the homeowner can cook. She has her sink. This is really the cooking station and the prep sink. And then on the other side, we have the cleanup sink. That's just a little detail of the mixing of the materials. I love custom hoods. I think that they really are an accent, and really, as much as the jewelry, they really do a lot for a kitchen. This is the hammer nickel hardware. This is actually throughout the house. This was going through the house and really respecting what Bowman did and carrying it into the kitchen. He didn't have any ceruse, though. It was all dark. So the ceruse wood is really a nice. Again, you must be sensitive to, you know, how these all are going to go together. How thick is this? How thick is this? How thick is this? So, you know, again, before I get to the job or I even start the manufacturers, I have to tell the contractor what he needs to do to get this to all work and to all be properly done. This was a kitchen that when I walked in, I asked her why she was doing it over because it was so beautiful. And she basically said because the architect, it's the most not practical kitchen I've ever, I mean, it was the most gorgeous kitchen. It was 2 years old. And we landed up totally gutting it. And what she did love, which I respected, and we always want to listen to clients, is that this is fabulous. This is her table. And so we ripped out the kitchen and gave her, let me go back a minute, and where this was all tall, we made this all counter so she could work. I mean, it really wasn't, it really, not once I got into it, I said to her, I said, I get it, Elizabeth. Once you look at it a little more, but it was sure a pretty kitchen. So basically, the other thing, and I don't want to get into the aesthetic of this too much, although it's a very clean look, and it's timeless, absolutely timeless. Think about building it. Do not build in coffee makers. They don't last. They don't, you know, you're gonna change them, and then you have this big hole that you don't know what to do with. But, you know, one of the things, like, people say to me, oh, what do you love to do for gadgets? And I want the best bells and whistles. Bells and whistles aren't always the right thing to do. That Ceruse kitchen, going back, the kitchen we ripped out had more bells and whistles, and she said it's the most impractical. She had one of those pantries that everything pulled out and swung out. Everything was so confined. She couldn't get a big box in. She had big boxes in her office. I mean, you have to think about what you're storing, and don't go for all the bells and whistles. They're not necessarily functional. Yes, you want to have good, you want to have good drawer height. You want to make sure this is all she bakes. I mean, this has all been laid out on one side for baking, another, actually the baking's on the other side. This is more for, this is all coffee, tea, vitamins. He has to take certain medications. We've made sure all of that's there. And the other thing that's so important to me is not to have doors going up and down and up and down. So you have this beautiful, everything is on the same height, very clean. And then what I love about these Mealy ovens is I can fit them right in the backsplash. So it's a nice clean look. And then everything down below also maintains its continuity. This is the other side where all her baking is, and then we have the big range. That happens to be a solid glass backsplash. They're beautiful, they're easy to clean, and they hold up. There's nothing, they're great. But it's not tile, it's sheets of glass that they template, they paint the back of it, and they bring it in. Here's another kitchen where this was built in 1916, and I opted not to do recessed lights. So this has all surface-mounted lights in it. And there's her wonderful, she loves it, and the dogs sit underneath. It's really great. You can do things such as routing out of your granite. I think they're nice. I think they work. If you don't want to do the grooves, you can have your stone person just do a pitch, and I think it's a nice way to get the water to drain back in. Again, this is a chrome. I'm not afraid to mix materials. These are nickel, this is chrome, this is stainless. Don't be afraid to mix. This is just showing a little bit of a, now, this is where you get into you have to be careful with code. When you get somebody to help you design your kitchen, you have to have 6 inches from a combustible, but you also can't exceed 13 inches depth. I'm going through this quickly, but I'm trying to make you aware that there are codes and you have to abide by them. I made the mistake once in Greenwich and I ate a $12,000 hood because of a 1/4 of an inch, and the inspector gave me a really hard time. I learned the hard way. I think that historically, I love some of the details of the past, and I love an offset pivot hinge. I think they're beautiful. I think they're refined. And when you're doing a kitchen, to have that, I think it's just lovely. It's just a little bit showing. I love them, and I think they just are very clean. Again, this is a very clean kitchen that I think is timeless. I did this kitchen about 10 years ago. So I think it's standing the test of time. And then this is a little area outside the kitchen. There is a bar, a butler's pantry, but this is also a space actually between the family room and the kitchen, but we've made all the silver. You know, again, this is a gadget that you do want. When you want to have your silver, getting the Pacific cloth made for it is very nice. This is a home in Sharon that I ended up doing the entire house. It was a client of mine in the city, and the house had a fire. And he brought me in and said, help. And I'm going to just focus on the kitchen today because it was like, what else are we going to put in this kitchen, Brian? I have no more room. And I couldn't go anywhere because I was in between a part of the house he didn't want to tear down because it was sentimental. The dining room was over here, and we literally dismantled and tore this all down, rebuilt it, put a bedroom upstairs. But oh my gosh, I had no room, and they wanted, you know, a tall refrigerator, a tall freezer, a range, wine. Oh, and the fireplace. Oh yeah, let's not forget the fireplace. So we had to get the fireplace in. And this was a very low ceiling. This is the existing. It's a beautiful home in Sharon, Connecticut, where I wanted to preserve a lot of the historic character. It's very understated. It's very much a farmhouse. And so I will, this is Mouse's Back by Farrow & Ball. I think he was going to paint the whole house Mouse's Back because he just loved it. But we opted not to have wall cabinets in some areas to give us, you know, make it feel higher than it really is. And to have artwork in a kitchen is lovely. These are the black countertops. I don't know if all of you know that this is leathered. To do a black countertop in a hone finish will only show the oil of your hands, and shiny, although it's better, not a lot of people want shiny. So again, if you leather it, you solve a lot of the problems that you would have if you didn't leather it. This kitchen's got more appliances in it than I want to. I mean, this is a 36-inch all refrigerator. There's a freezer around the corner. It was like, I can't put another appliance in here, Brian. I don't have the room. So, but it was a lot of fun. These are all existing. This is all going back to the this is the windows. Windows go way back. I don't know if the house is 1830. So, but they're pretty old and really beautiful. And he wanted a fireplace, as I said, and then he bought that painting for his wife for Christmas, so we had to put it somewhere, so it landed up over the fireplace. I said it's a little big, Brian, but it's okay. Again, the little details, the fun little, the naivete of simple hardware. It doesn't have to be over the top. It could be something very simple and something very nice. And what I did do in this kitchen is I did a lip door, which I don't often do. And what it is that the door overlaps the frame. You saw it a lot. Probably a lot of us grew up with it with our parents in the 60s. And I loved it, and I decided that we were going to keep that. This kitchen is a very interesting kitchen. This is in Darien. She just sold the house. I brought in an architect I knew that this house really needed a classical architect so that we would have proper access lines. This is one kitchen that the refrigerator's not in the kitchen. The refrigerator's in the pantry. So if you're working, so many people say, where is it? And I go, well, it's over here. So, you just go into here and this is all counter, and you'll see why. We didn't have a lot of room. So we really, the character of the house were these triple windows, and they were the metal. Hope made the windows for us out of Texas. They're wonderful. And the access line out onto the porch from the main house. And then we did do the wood countertops. This sink was in our old kitchen. I brought it to my stainless steel fabricator, and he sealed it up, and he got it all working again, and we used it in this one. So again, sometimes there's old things that you can use. Oh my God, 5 minutes, I'm in trouble. We have one of the criteria she had is she had an 11'6" china closet that we had to work with. So you can see why the refrigerator didn't make it into the kitchen. And then don't do this for everybody. This is great for somebody, but the knife's in the slot. So I'm going to run through this a little bit to give you a little bit of an idea. This was her old kitchen, and we kept it, and we used it as the butler's pantry. And we put a new countertop on it. The cooktop was in there. We kept the metal cabinets, which are really great. The wrought iron cabinets, they're wonderful. This is a fun house. This was Joan Rivers' house in Litchfield, Connecticut, that a client bought a year before Joan Rivers passed away. And she loves to cook. And one of the things when I have somebody that loves to cook, I really start to hone in on the depths of cabinets. When you do a 27-inch deep drawer, you will be totally amazed how much more you'll get in that drawer rather than the standard 24. It's a game changer for getting these big pots and pans and Ginny cooks. So it was really, really important. And so this is in Litchfield County, and just a wonderful space. This was recessed. The kitchen ended here, and we recessed that wall to give us more space, and you'll see in a little bit. I did this with Bunny Williams. I have to give her credit for the decorating. This is, I have to go a little quicker, I'm sorry. But they added the breakfast room, and then we had to recess, so that was. I'm only not going to talk about this one too much. I'm going to say that there's times you have to move a wall. This is a condo in West Palm Beach, and I moved this entire wall 18 inches. This wall was here. And one of the biggest problems that everybody faced that looked at this, my client said, is they felt that the living area wasn't wide enough. So I just moved the whole wall. And we have a huge column going through here, but it's okay, we hit it. And sometimes you have to think outside the box, and it made a world of difference. And this is a very modern kitchen. We did this a few years back. It's not in the book because it kind of didn't fit in the book. But, and this was a lot of fun. This is Kips Bay in Palm Beach, and Andrea and I had a blast. And when you don't have a client, you do whatever you want. And I felt that a lot of people in Palm Beach don't cook. And so we decided to put the artwork up. Why not? You have artwork in your living room, and you spend so much time in your kitchen, put the artwork in the kitchen. So that was really our feeling about this. And then I believe to put a tailor table, I love a table in the middle of a room. Doesn't have to be an island. To put a piece of furniture, I think it warms it up so much. And again, I love the simplicity of drawers with full height doors. I'm going fast now, but I'm trying to give you a little bit of this was just a lot of fun. And I love that light. And again, we want people to realize this has got chrome and it's got brass, and mix it up. Inserts. This is one insert that's really great. These are the stainless inserts. You can do potato, you can do bread, you can do spices. We had this room, we didn't know, again, this is all volunteer. I love this. Andrea did this. This is faux suede. I just think it was such a wonderful, thank you, Andrea, such a wonderful way of breaking up the blue, and it's warm. And then what I wanted this to be, and what the inspiration is, that whoever bought the house could make this a refrigerated wine room, because it would be fabulous. You're going to entertain. Make this a big. Why get an appliance that's a wine room? It's beautiful. Just make it. So again, this is a little more. We'll run through these. This one is in Darien. This is a client that went from a 24,000 square foot house to an 11,000 square foot house. And she had trouble downsizing. So needless to say, it was not easy. And I want you all to know that we do photograph big kitchens because they're easier, but we do a lot of small kitchens. They're just as fun. But the thing is, you have to answer the same amount of questions, whether it's a small kitchen or a big kitchen. Do you want me to quit? No. Okay. Do you want me to quit? Okay. So what we did here, I just have to give this client credit. I loved her. She realized the architect wasn't going to be able to design the kitchen, and she showed up at my showroom one day and said, I need help. So she brought me aboard, and we really had a great time. And she found this fireback, French fireback in Paris, and she shipped it over here. And I just think it's one of the best accents behind her range top. It's really quite lovely. So Susan Thorne did the decorating. I did the interior design, and Doug Vanderhorn did the architecture. So it's really quite a beautiful home. But this is a place where we did have a few. I happen to love a sink next to a range top. I think that I'm not a believer in pot fillers, because I had a client turn one on, went to answer the phone, and left it on. And before we knew it, the entire floor was cupped, and we had the insurance company. John, maybe you were a part of that. So we have the sink here. And I think it's great because you just bring the pot right over to it, and it's safe, and it's in the countertop, and I don't have to worry about it. And then she can prep, and it's wonderful. Oh, that's a zinc countertop. If you're going to think outside the box, don't. It stains. It has marks all over it now. So you have to be aware, and whoever you work with, you have to make sure you understand all the pros and cons of every single material you're working with, and make sure that you're happy with it, because it stains. This is one gadget I always use. This is a Kesselbomer. This is a corner unit that comes out and then pulls out. It's the best corner unit for getting your storage. It's just no doubt. But you have to be careful, because you have to have the room for it in order for it to pull out. I learned the hard way. I'm not a lover of these because I think they take up a whole cabinet, but this woman had so many different rooms. She had a linen room. She had a silver room. She had so many rooms that she wanted it, and I'm not going to say no. So we put it in there. I think this is great. If you have olive oils with different flavors, it doesn't need to be wine. It could be your olive oils, and you have all your different flavors. It could be, so it's a fun way of treating it. And I love the curtains in front of the glass. I think that's such a nice, fun little look. This kitchen I did with Bunny Williams in McLean, Virginia. I put it in here because I think, don't be afraid of color. This is the little bit of the aesthetic I'm going to talk about. Don't ever be afraid of color, and Bunny certainly isn't, and she does a beautiful job. And then this is a butler's pantry that is probably one of my favorite projects that I did for Bunny in Southampton, and it's just a joy. And again, don't be afraid of color. And the other thing I don't want you to be afraid of is that's marmoleum. That's a vinyl tile. And I think that the vinyl tile is so durable and so easy to walk on, and tell me that isn't beautiful. So sometimes don't ever kind of put your nose up to marmoleum, because it's a natural product, it's a vinyl, it has a jute backing, and it just has a beautiful look. And that's it. Thanks so much. Are there any questions?
noticed that all of your cabinets are inset. Is that the trend? Is that just random?
It's a trend, but it isn't a trend. When you think about construction of a cabinet and you want it, and you do a frameless, and then you have to have a filler, and it just, to me, it's a better look. It's a more refined look. I don't have to put fillers everywhere, you know, on an inside corner. I don't have two fillers. I have the scribe of the cabinet. Right now, we're doing a modern kitchen with a very modern door, but we're still maintaining the inset. The style and rail sizes could be a little less. So you can get unless you're doing a very modern kitchen, then personally, I think the inset is better from a construction standpoint. It's not quality, it's just from an installation, the clearances, just everything about it. But if you want to do frameless, don't, you know, it's not a problem.
Quick question. The Lazy Susan alternative, that corner cabinet that pulls out, it was called a...
It's a Kessebaumer. If you Google Magic Lazy Susan, it will come up.
Thank you. Thank you.
And there's a Magic Lazy Susan 1 and a Magic Lazy Susan 2. The 2 will allow you to roll, once you pull it out, you can pull out the rollouts. If you do the Magic Lazy Susan 1, you can't pull out the rollouts. So make sure you get the right one, but you also have to make sure you have proper clearances. Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
The difference between doing a polished look or the honed look, is there a trend with that, a practicality of one or the other? I'm working on a quartzite right now, and I'm really torn between doing the honed, which I like the look of, but I know
Your honed is going to hold up better.
Stone is so beautiful when it's polished.
Well, there's a few things you can do. You can do it polished, don't be afraid. Quartzite is pretty much, you know, it goes granite quartzite. So it's pretty hard material. You have to remember that the sealers today are so good, you're not going to hurt the stone. You're going to hurt the sealer. What's going to happen is when acid hits the sealer, do you ever look at a countertop and it looks like all these blotches? You know, it just kind of, what you're doing is the sealer broke down from the acid. You know, I have clients that every year or every 2 years, my stone guy will go in, he'll take off the sealer, put new sealer on, and it's as good as new. If you leave a wine glass for 12 hours, well, yeah, you may have problems. You may penetrate into the stone. Then you've got a whole other issue you have to deal with. But don't be afraid if you want to do the polish. But remember that acids are what eats at it. So you're not going to see as much discrepancy in the they call it etching.
Right.
Okay, so when it etches, you won't see it as much if it's a hone finish. Now, there's something else you can do. You can hone it, and then you can enhance it. If you hone it and then enhance it, it brings the depth of the veining out, and it gives you almost the character of it being polished without that high sheen. And then you get the, right, so you, right.
I like the softness of the honed look.
Right, but if you want to bring out the stone a little more, you ask them to hone it and enhance it. So when they put the sealer on, it has an enhancer in it. Okay?
Sure. That was a great question that I was actually going to ask, but I also wanted to tell you, Sarah, that I enjoyed my kitchen for over 20 years in Darien, and it is timeless, absolutely.
Thanks.
And absolutely beautiful. The question was about new materials and also new appliances, because I did hit, you know, the Miele and the Sub-Zeros and everything. But we are kind of reaching that during pandemic when we couldn't get appliances, and I went through another kitchen design, and it was totally fine. I thought I was going to lose my mind finding appliances, but it was really good to search out new appliances and not wait 18 months. I'm really happy with what was chosen, the Exos, which is made in, I believe, Korea, or the Thermador, or I was really happy with how they are made now, and they're great.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, on appliance selection, really, I listen to the client. Because if you're a cook, there's really going to be certain appliances that I'm going to guide you to. That's a whole other conversation. I'm doing a lecture at Albano on the 30th of March. So if you really want to know about your appliances, then you got to go to Albano on the 30th, and I'll get into that. Because that's a whole other, there's a lot involved in appliances, especially today with all of the steam ovens, the high-speed ovens, the injection of the moistness, I mean, it's never ending, and the amount of different refrigeration and freezer, and it's wonderful for designers because we have total flexibility, but I really have to cater to the homeowner and what they need, the children, what do they want. It really is important. What may work for you may not work for somebody else, so it's important.
What was your path to designing kitchens?
By accident. Well, my parents did a kitchen when I was 12 years old, and I just loved it. And then I went to FIT for 4 years, and I got my BA in interior design, and I needed a job. And so somebody said, well, there's a kitchen showroom that is looking for somebody. So I took the job, and I never left. I mean, I left there, but I just love it. And then I was introduced, a wonderful architect, Richard Salmons, who I really love, introduced me to the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art in 1994. So I just really embraced classical architecture and understanding how to integrate a kitchen into a space. I kind of say it's okay, I'm going to put boxes on a wall or I'm going to integrate it into the space. And so to me, it's really important to integrate it into the space. And that's where I spent years and years and years studying architecture and the classical language.
I was going to go back to the counters and just say, what's the most indestructible counter? So I've got the Carrara marble, but like, do you ever use lava
That's not the
stone?
most.
Do you use?
I have
no,
used-
it's going to be replaced.
I have used lava stone, not a lot, only because it's hard getting it made and templating it and the issues, and it's coming from Paris, and I mean, just all the other things that go. You know, I believe in function and getting the job done. You know, really your most durable is granite, and then comes quartzite. You know, if you're really fastidious, I'm going to tell you know, I'm still going to say do a granite, but it's really going to be, it really goes back to those conversations with my clients, what they do, how they work. That client that I said we've done a few jobs for, she has Lapitech. Lapitech's amazing. It's a sintered stone. I'm not a person that likes quartz. I don't like quartz because I think it's maybe for a laundry room, but I think that quartz has its issues, and and I don't like the resin. I don't like what it does to people that are cutting stone, and you know the resins in them I think are not environmentally safe. A sintered stone like Lapitech is crushed glass. We used it at Kips Bay too. It's crushed glass, it's crushed stone, and it's heated to about 2,000 degrees. So it's all, you know, pretty much a natural material. It's really indestructible. And she has it now in 2 homes, and she loves it. So to me, it's expensive. You need to make sure that the fabricator, it has to be a licensed Lapitech. It's such a hard, dense material. You have to have the right person install it.
So I hear you about the recessed lighting. Everyone hates recessed lighting, but do you feel like there's sort of a minimum ceiling height that you need to have in order to do more fun light fixtures? Like, does
Not
it need to be
necessarily.
above 8 feet?
No, you can go above 8 feet and do recessed.
No, lower. Like, if I have an 8 feet kitchen, I just feel like I almost touch 8 feet. I mean, I'm tall, but like,
Well,
if I put on
think
heels, I'm
I
touching
think
my
it's
light fixture.
I mean, you can find beautiful that one, well, that was 100 inches. But you can find lights that are shallow. It's a little harder with an 8-foot ceiling, but it's not impossible. It's just where you locate them. I had an 8-foot ceiling in my New Canaan home, and I did. It was not a problem at all.
I also didn't realize fluffy and recessed lighting. Right. Thing that people don't
Is that something people hate?
What?
Recess lighting? You should talk to my husband. Thank you. I will find you offline for your exact.
You can do the recess lights.
Thank you all. I have two questions.
Sure.
One is, would you ever sacrifice, I have a small kitchen, would you sacrifice drawer space for a second dishwasher if you entertain a lot?
You entertain, it's going to be a little bit of a hard question because I don't know everything that you have. Do you have other spaces for storage, or are you really struggling with?
It could go like in a separate butler's pantry or a different pantry.
Okay.
So it could go.
So
outside the
those supplemental
kitchen.
rooms can support, if you have those, that's why I say you cannot do a kitchen in a vacuum. If you have those supplemental rooms that you can put it in, then absolutely go with the second dishwasher.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I'll tell my husband because
Okay.
we've been fighting it out.
Just don't tell him who said it.
And my second question is, for clients where you've done kitchens, what are their biggest regrets? Like if they said, like after they've lived in it for a year, I wish I had done X, Y, Z differently.
That is such a good question, and I know this is going to sound like I have an ego, and I try not to have an ego. I am proud of my career. But one of the things that I painstakingly do with a client is make sure they understand everything. I don't ever want to hear, I didn't know it was going to look like that, or I didn't know it was going to work like that. I don't ever want to hear that. So I will really go to the nth degree. The only regret, and Ginny is actually a good friend of mine now, the Litchfield Hills kitchen, she's like, I cook. I said, great. We went into Albano, and there was a caliber range that is so gorgeous, and she fell in love with it. It's too much range for her. She's really struggling, and thank God I work with Albano, because I've worked with them for 38 years, and Albano will do anything for me. So they flew out the owner of Caliber. We just were there 2 weeks ago. She was having trouble with the on-off. He came with a suitcase. He had all the parts in his suitcase. He took apart the bottom of the range. He put all new pieces in. He redid she is so happy she can't see straight. It's 4 years of struggling, but finally Randy came out and he solved all these little problems that kept happening and happening and happening. And so that was a regret. It was too much range for her. It was just too powerful. It's just too, it really has a lot of the characteristics of a commercial range. But that's a whole conversation. You got to go to Albano, and then I can help you with it. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Architecturally, I'm not a lover of upper cabinets. I do them, but architecturally, I think they just don't. When you really are looking for a look, doing upper cabinets just, to me, break the look. I can't explain it. It's just maybe my eye, but I will do talls, I will do counter, and then I have pantries or whatever I can do. I'll do some shelves, but we're getting tired of that. But I think that architecturally, I do what I need to do for a client. But in the perfect world, like Kips Bay was Andrea and I said, oh, great, we don't have a client. Let's just go for it. You know, and we didn't do wall cabinets because I just wouldn't do them.
Sarah, this is going to be our last question.
Okay.
And I'm going to take advantage of that and ask two.
Sure.
Sorry. And actually, they're both kind of related to renovating, I suppose.
Okay.
And I know, right, you come in and do everything new. But in terms of cabinetry, if you have wood cabinetry, would you give advice to someone if they're considering painting them? Would you say just...
Sure, and I don't want you to think that we always go in and do new. I mean, I happen to have done Lisa's kitchen, And she had this wall unit and we just fixed it. You don't have to take something out. Sometimes all you have to do is fix it. So painting wood, I have no problem painting wood. You just, if it's oak, it's a little harder because the grain will come up in the, if it's maple or, paint it. Don't worry about it. Just paint it. And it's not a problem.
Yeah, maple, paint it. It's for my daughter. Yeah, you have maple.
You know, if it's
it's cherry. Oh.
Yeah, listen, okay. This is a whole
Family counseling here.
This is a whole argument. You got to decide what you want to do, and you've got to, you know, there's cherries and there's cherries. You know, I may look at it and say, paint it. Or I may say, it's really a beautiful, you know, what is it? Is it a beautiful antique cherry? Is it a character cherry? Or is it just a cherry? I mean, there's just, so you almost have to analyze it. But, you know, don't be afraid to paint it. Wood is coming back. I'm going to say wood is coming back. But, you know, I wouldn't be afraid to paint it.
So maybe a fabulous new countertop.
And you can
And
change,
hardware.
you
And
can change the
jewelry.
countertop and hardware, and you have a new kitchen and backsplash.
And,
I don't think so.
Thank you. Okay, and then and this one is actually kind of like a personal to me. We have a 24-year-old Sub-Zero. We'd already done one renovation where we rolled it out and came it back and brought it back in. So would you suggest that I go to an appliance person to ask for their input, or do you have a personal opinion about it? Or experience with Sub-Zeros?
I don't understand the question.
How long do Sub-Zeros last?
Are you asking me what I think of Sub-Zero? I just want to understand the question.
Yeah, I suppose. How long should I expect a Sub-Zero to last?
You can talk to 30 different people, you'll get 30 different opinions. Okay. Oh, I had a Sub-Zero, I had such problems. Oh, I love my Sub-Zero. I mean, I get it all. And I do remember when I got into the business in 1980, but those appliances are antiques, they had a compressor problem back then. Sub-Zero is a wonderful, wonderful company, and the sophistication behind the unit is really superior. The other appliance, but it's not for everybody, is True. True is a commercial company that now makes a residential line, and if you are looking for an incredibly precise, I mean, you're talking up there. You're talking. Your lettuce will last in a GE for 4 days, and your lettuce will last in a Sub-Zero for 10 days, because of the efficiency of the unit. And the success of the unit too is if you fill that refrigerator, the success is like in a commercial in a restaurant. If they fill it, it has to stay the same temperature, or else it's not a good piece of equipment. And Sub-Zero and True successfully do that. So if it's at 38 degrees and you fill that thing, it's at 38 degrees. I have a client, that job I did in Darien, that big country French, oh, heaven help me. She would call me and she got so mad. She says, I hate this Miele refrigerator. I hate it. And 3 years in a row, she was screaming. And I finally said to her, I said, Charlotte, think about when it's failing on you. What's happening is she goes to Martha's Vineyard in June, empties it, comes back, maybe has a few things in it, and what was happening is the bottom shelf was freezing because the way Miele, the air comes out of the top on a Miele. So if you don't have that properly filled, it will freeze. So if she had salad on the top shelf, everything froze. So I didn't learn this till I spent a lot of time with the technical department at Miele. So I said to her, when you go, I want you to do something. When you go away now to Martha's Vineyard, I want you to put boxes of rice, I want you to put cans, I want you to put just put it all in it. She never had a problem again. So I think that sometimes when you're getting into high-end refrigeration, I do believe Sub-Zero and True are your finest pieces of equipment. They also have 2 compressors so that if one fails for the refrigerator, the freezer, GE and all those others, they have 1 compressor. that it's just, you're going to spend as much money for a GE monogram, but you're not going to get the advancement in the technological refrigeration that you really want. And you're not going to get it with a Miele either. Trust me, it'll freeze on the top shelf. All set? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I see the gears turning, and I think the Flivio table, John, I think you're in big, big trouble. I'm going to ask Sarah. She has graciously donated some copies of her book, and so we've got 5 names that we're going to pull out. And if your name is called, you can pick up your book in the foyer on your way out. And yeah. Oh, right there. Okay. So don't worry if your name isn't called. We have some extra ones for sale, so you can do that on your way out as well. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Oops, I got 2.
Okay.
Alice Watson. Carolyn? Oh,
Carolyn Burke.
Carolyn Burke.
Yeah.
Sorry, my thumb was on the thing. Flora Smeaton. There's no name.
Ah, okay.
Hillary Miller. And what, is it
We got one more. One more.
Ashley Bartolotta.
Ah. Beautiful.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. And please join us later this month. On March 29th, we have the second set of speakers. So that's going to be Melissa and Doug Bernstein. If you've ever had a toddler, you're going to recognize Melissa and Doug Bernstein for their puzzles and toys. They're up in Westport, and they've started Melissa and Doug Toys and also a wellness company called Lifeline. So they're coming on March 29th. Fellow Darien resident S.E. Cupp from CNN is going to moderate that session. So we would love to have you join us if you haven't already purchased tickets. Thanks again for coming, and have a good night.